I meant to. How you doing, sir?
Are you a blogger, young man?
I am. I'm doing YouTube.
YouTube?
Yes.
What's your name on YouTube?
Life. Hold on a second.
Oh, you
guys.
You can edit me out.
I'm gonna edit you out. No, I appreciate it. So my channel is Life Behind the Reels.
Life behind.
Life Behind the Reels.
Yes.
So it's a channel for men, really. So I'm teaching young men and older men as well on how to be straightforward in life, invest in self-improvement, walk 10,000 steps. And
Well, very good. It's about time, young man.
Yeah.
Another young man get out.
Yeah.
And help. Now, that's our duty
As men.
As OG.
oh, hey, hey. There's nothing nice about this weather. Speaking of killing the nice guy, there's nothing nice about the heat wave in Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay, right now it's 7 o'clock, still in the upper 90s, but that scorching, cooking heat where you can fry the eggs, we're not there right now. So it's a perfect time for me to come out and record some content for a good hour and then head back. So the saying, right? And I've heard this before. I've heard it over and over again through many channels and podcasts and over the years, and I never quite knew the difference between being a nice guy versus respect, right? Doing all the fundamentals, doing all the right things, and still being able to draw the line, which does not necessarily make you an a-hole. It just means that you respect yourself a lot more. And where I picked up this bad habit of always turning the other cheek when someone slaps you on the other side, it dates back to childhood. See, I don't hide the fact at this age of 49, right, where I am at today, that I've had a turmoil childhood, a very, I come from a home filled with domestic violence. My mom was an absolute tyrant. I don't want to use any profanity words because I got to move on from her. But let's just say she had a hand in always keeping a foot on the neck of my father's throat for his entire existence ever since they got together. And I think they probably had a couple of good years before he was the nice guy, right? And he never stopped being the nice guy, and whatever he did for her was never enough. I never saw my mom, my biological mother, ever happy. In fact, it was the opposite. So the more he did and the more he continued to provide, the more she was way ahead of her time. In fact, I would argue decades ahead of her time, where she was always hitting him with the "I'm not happy" card. And my father, the good man that he was, translated that message into I must do more for her. My father was a good dude, man. I am an embodiment, and I depict everything that he taught me and he left me with. See, I have to give you this little history here because as an older man, you don't just get here and just jump right into the meat and potatoes because it's popular to talk about it. This is the backstory and the advantage you have of a guy that's wiser, older, mature, and into self-improvement, and sharing my wisdom and gems on this channel. With that being said, I know I'm not the only guy experiencing the nice guy syndrome. See, I had to kill this, and I even still struggle to do so because at the heart of hearts, I'm a big teddy bear, man. And I think as most men are, the older we get, the wiser we get, we have the option, the choice, and the lens to exercise the degree of the kindness we want to execute and exercise versus being an a-hole or simply drawing the line and accepting the fact that no is an acceptable answer. See, my mother crossed my boundaries and privacy and exposed a lot of my biological puberty years, right? I had very strong feelings towards the opposite sex, towards young girls, and my testosterone, my drive to get one and date started very early on. I was extremely attracted to girls at 12, 13, 14, maybe even at 10. So I had a very high drive. The joke is that back in Fiji Islands, where I was born, we used to hire house girls, right? Housemaids. So let's just say I was in the game very early on. I know it sounds tacky and you'll laugh at this, but they taught me a trick or two. right? So I was a naughty boy. Yes, I was molested by them, but I have no complaints because now, you know, if I could honestly go back, that was still much better than the modern day era because at least you were getting action. I'm not saying that it was the full throttle, but there was a lot of, you know, messing around and heavy petting going on. And while my parents went to work, they would get busy, right? So we had about 3 or 4 of these maids over the years. And the story never changed. They were always finding me attractive as a little boy. So you go figure, right? It's almost like modern day feminism and all this modern day stuff that we're seeing now. It's just really, really amped up because of social media. And also it's a very deliberate agenda to effeminize men and outspoken, confident, strong men like myself. That's making a difference in the community. You know, you fast forward, here we have it with my father, who struggled his entire life, you know, to get any action from my mother outside of giving birth. And from what he was always complaining about, not even complaining, just trying to negotiate the sex piece with my mother, and we could hear it, right? And she would weaponize sex in return for him to provide more, do more, and tell him how he was full of ish, if you know what I mean. And he had to do more and he was never good enough. She would compare him to other men. She would also downplay her son's abilities. As you can see by my channel, I'm very athletically inclined and competitive sports, right? And it's followed me through an entire lifetime to this point. And there's a piece of me that always wonders how much better I could have been. And I'm not complaining because I am competing at a very high level. You can check out the rest of my videos. I am competing at dance battles, martial arts. I still do this till this day. I play soccer, all of these things, right? So, but it makes me wonder the confidence I lacked as a kid. If I only had the nourishment in my own home, how much better my life would have been, because my father was really pouring into my cup, and he's the reason why I'm actually here today. But she did everything she could to step on that nice guy. Excuse me, I just ate. I'm digesting my food. I'm gonna be well over 12,000 steps today, so that's why I'm burping and digesting, right? So, you know, what I learned from all of that, and as I was coming into my own, and I tell you this story because I became sexually active very early on in my life. I think by the time 13, 14, 15, I've already had some experiences, and I think I lost my virginity. Even though with all that heavy messing around, I didn't lose my virginity till about 2021, which is very late considering if you compare the stark contrast with today's society where we are, right? So a lot of times I would get the action, but I wouldn't know what to do with it because I was so young, right? But these older girls were always ready to go, right? And I was just a nice guy, man. I was taken right after my father, but I also saw how much suffering there was in all of this. Like, he was miserable. In fact, I don't remember my father ever being completely happy in his marriage and say, I love your mother so much. In fact, he would pander to her rather than receive unconditional love, and it was one-sided. He was always pouring into that cup. Now, enough of that story, okay? He eventually got Parkinson's, right? It's a combination of stress and I think it was the onset, and she sped that up, and it's unfortunate. So check out my playlist. I go into more detail over there. Beautiful background. But as I started growing up into my teens and coming of age, even through my teens, 20s, 30s, now 40s, and I'm seeing the tail end of my 40s, about to step into a new decade in the best shape of my life at nearly 50, right, in a month or so here. One theme has remained the same, irrespective of the movement. Okay, let me adjust there we go. Irrespective of the movement, the isms that exist today, women in general have relatively stayed the same in terms of how they choose. So, you know, you are pre-selected on various things, and this has remained the same. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. It doesn't matter what your background is and what your story is. You could be a bum. You could be homeless. I'm half kidding there, but there's some truth to that as well. I love this background. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So glad I came out. But I digress. They will choose. They're choosing signals versus what they tell you are two different things. So they would always pick in my teenage years, and I would always wonder what they saw in those other guys. So they would pick the biggest, the baddest, the scruffiest looking mofos, mean looking dudes. And of course, I am saying this from a standpoint of being just a little boy. I was a teenager, and you know, us South Asian kids, we're not born with all this, right? You have to build it. I'm South Asian, I'm Indian, ethnicity wise, and this body is you just don't get this overnight. You have to really work for it, right? I'm not genetically gifted, but there were guys in my age category that were biologically gifted, and they were essentially the Chads, right? They were the beast, the beast and the best of the boys, like in our age grouping. And so I would always see that the girls that I've always had a crush on, they would tell me one thing and they would string me along and waste so much of my time, and sort of without verbally promising, they would kind of lay breadcrumb you that I will go on a date with you. At that time, it's not even about getting sex or late. You're thinking about it, but you know very well as a young man, during those days, it was very hard to get to that stage because dating had a process. I mean, but when you're a teenager, there is no process. You're just experimenting. So here's where it got really tricky is every time I did things the right way and I was a gentleman, she would take the gifts, flowers and little notes and chocolates and roses. Romantic, right? As a kid, I was ahead of my time too. So leaving notes on her cars after class and carrying her books and all of that. So I come from that era. I come from that generation, man. And she meaning one of many that I pursued, I would always fall for the pretty ones, of course, right? The best or nothing. And you pay the price for those ones too. But then they taught me a valuable lesson that they are not all things sugar, spice, everything nice. They're not, when the code goes something like that, but they're nothing close to it. Because behind that pretty smile, the hair, you know, the body, the physique, it's intoxicating, man. It's so sexually charges you, right? And in a good way, like you look at them as perfect angels, all your senses are going off, and you just think that these women, these girls can do no wrong. Fast forward this 10 years from now, so by the time they get to 25, they are moving this exact same way, except they're moving with more strategy. While we guys are thinking with our second head, they are thinking business terms. They are thinking hypergamy. This is female nature. They are designed to extract resources. So when I got to find all of this out, I was very angry. I think they call it the red pill rage. I mean, I have awareness. I wouldn't say I'm completely red pill because I date. I approach girls. Like I mentioned, I have a 50% hit ratio when I cold approach. And you know, it's work. You have to be in a right mindset, the vibe to even get there, but that's the topic for another video. But what I realized is you could waste a lot of time being the good guy, being the nice guy, and you will almost 99% of the time lose. Now here's the one way you win as a nice guy is she settles with you. She settles with you. She picks you as the guy, right? That's you to settle down with, and all the fun stops essentially. So all this time she's been riding the wagon. She's been on a journey, if you know what I mean, right? I keep it friendly for YouTube, but really what she's done is she realizes that by the time she gets to 28, 29, 30, right, it's time to cash in and have someone wife her up, and that's the end of that chapter. And now all of a sudden you're following her biological clock. No is an acceptable answer. Here's why the nice guy loses, is because you're not getting anything in return. In fact, you're doing yourself a disservice by not applying yourself and trying something different other than being a nice guy. So let me ask you a few questions. Have you ever been in these situations with women at work? Not even the opposite sex even. Like this trickles down into your personal life, personal development areas in sports, corporate life, work life, social settings, establishing your boundary and hierarchy, commanding respect when you walk into a room, dealing with social anxiety, right? All of these things. Have you been in these types of situations, right? Because the reason why I threw all of this out is even conflicts, right? Conflicts reveal a lot about you and the other person. Is how agreeable are you? Like, did you mean to really say no? And is that what you really meant to say? Or were you just trying to diffuse the tension just to please someone else's emotion at the expense of yourself and your emotions that come first, right? I mean, I can almost guarantee you, if you're following this story, you're probably agreeing with me to an extent, because I've been there. I meant to, how you doing, sir?
Are you a blogger, young man?
I am. I'm doing YouTube.
YouTube?
Yes.
What's your name on YouTube?
Life. Hold on a second.
Oh,
you guys.
You can edit me out.
I'm going to edit you out. No, I appreciate it. So my channel is Life Behind the Reels.
Life behind.
Life Behind the Reels. So everything happens behind the camera.
Yes, it does.
Reels. R-E-E-L-S.
Yeah,
You're an OG.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm an old Vietnam vet.
There you go. There you go. And we need to hear stories like yourself.
Grandbabies.
Okay.
My children
And
are
you're fit.
35 years old and 40.
Yeah.
Everybody graduated. They're alive and they're in New Orleans and Colorado and Los Angeles.
Are you a coach?
No, I'm not a coach.
Okay.
No, I'm a old bass player.
Yeah, I'm switching arms just because I got this thing has got so much weight.
I know.
So when I walk, you'll see me switching arms. So
I know.
what you just said hits home is because we need more men to show the light.
It is good.
This culture we live in right now is very soft, and you get your feelings hurt. And I come from a generation where we had to fight our way.
Yeah, I did too.
And I looking at you, I'm pretty sure you handle your business. And
Well, it is a generational thing. Because when I grew up, you had to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to be verbal, be ready to deal with a bully.
Yes. And diffuse the situation. Right. And today, I mean, I'm in entertainment. I do acting, movies, short films, martial arts, all of that stuff. I grew up in the Van Damme era, Rocky Balboa. So we were all action guys, right?
That's right.
Today, they're making you wear dresses in acting classes and normalizing the crap.
No.
Yeah.
Not acting.
Oh man, it's and I had to drop out of the acting classes because I'm not about that business, man.
My wife just got to. We were watching Diddy for the last.
Oh, he diddled. The
my goodness, this is a Godfather situation.
Yep.
He was in charge.
Yep.
After Epstein left.
Yep.
He was in charge of Hollywood.
Yep. And it's no joke, man, because this is all coming to light. And if you think about the little ones, right?
Yeah.
Famously, Justin Bieber,
Oh yeah.
The guy is going through hell, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Yes, he's back on drugs again. Genius mind, but abuse in the system.
Yeah.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Men should not have to sacrifice
Yep.
to excel in society.
Yeah. We need more good men in society. Not to downplay our masculinity. And I think what's being challenged right now, myself,
is masculine.
People tell me, hey man, you're a pretty boy. You don't count as. I was like, wait till you hear me talk, because once they hear me talk, then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, you actually can stand your ground. I'm like, you're supposed to stand your ground as a man and be able to project. And a lot of the young guys today are not able to do that. They just get neutered by media, mainstream. And honestly, there's some very strong women out there that neuter men from speaking up, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you'll see my channel. I talk about all of these things.
Oh, I'm gonna check your channel when I get back home.
And I do have a lot of ladies that love the channel, but then also
good.
hate the channel.
Yeah.
But now it's catching steam. I'm almost at about 500 people on there now.
Well, I'll be one of your 500 people. I do hope I will continue. Well, my role as minister in the church, Hope Church Cactus,
Yeah.
and is to involve more young men. I'm in the men's group.
Yeah.
And involve more young men, and have to see more young men come to church, bring their wives to church. It is time, because there is a plan,
Yep.
and the plan is to neuter men
Yes.
in society.
Yes.
And it is a spiritual plan.
Yes.
It is you see it, my goodness, it's in your acting class.
It's in my acting class, and I had a fallout. I actually talk about this on my channel. I documented it. It's happened multiple times, and instead of giving me the action role and the romantic role that I'm really good at, drama, right? They were force feeding on normalizing wearing a dress, and you're supposed normalizing wearing a dress, and if you don't do it, you are a misogynist, and you are what you call toxic masculinity. Is because you have something against mainstream agenda. I was like, I don't.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah. This is the bullshit we're up against.
Toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic means poison.
Yeah. This is nothing. What they're referring to poison is really shaming, is because they couldn't get their own way to get you to act, gay, essentially, right? And there's a lot of homosexual roles that they're promoting in Hollywood, as you probably know.
Yes,
and they try to stereotype you, because if you look like a clean-cut guy, you're supposed to do that role. I'm like, no, I'm supposed to be a clean-cut guy like Jean-Claude Van Damme, trying to rescue a girl and get in a fight scene. All of the I'm from Bollywood.
Good and bad.
Yep.
Good overcomes bad.
Yep. That's it.
Come to save the woman.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Yes.
And so they're normalizing all this stuff, man. So part of my channel is also, guys, if you get into self-improvement, all of these issues take care of themselves, is because you become the best version of yourself, and you don't have any problem in your dating life. And if you can project your voice can carry you a distance.
Yes, it can. And also, I might add, 70 years old, be around men.
Yep. Other men.
Yep. That carry themselves in a man. Open doors for women.
Yes.
Say good morning to older women.
Yep.
Be a gentleman.
Yep.
Or look it up.
Yep.
Google that. What it takes to be a gentleman.
Yeah. There are topics on YouTube that actually talk about this. YouTube is actually blossoming with all these topics, man.
Good. What is your
life behind the reels?
REEL.
Yeah. So life behind the reels. Think about everything behind the camera. So my life revolves.
Life behind the reels.
Preparations for video shoots.
Life behind Diddy.
Yeah. Hey, what's your name?
What's your name? My name is John.
John. Okay, I'm Jay. Good to meet you, John. Thanks for the convo, man.
I'll get on this.
Okay.
When I get home.
Okay.
Will you be on there now? You're broadcasting now.
Yeah, but I'm gonna post this later. But you'll see my work there. Folks, that was amazing. I am gonna leave this in here. The guy was playing some music, so hopefully I don't catch copyright on that, but I'm going to keep it for as long as I can until it's an issue. That was literally my first interview live in this setting here while doing my walks. This is crazy, man. This is really, really crazy, insane. Maybe I take a section of that and put in another video, but this is essentially what this channel is for. And you notice when I spoke, it was like I'm speaking with my channel here. No holdbacks. Just being able to free flow and talk this way, So going back to the subject of the nice guy, right? That dude, I can tell, is an OG, 70 years old. He's a nice guy too. And he made it out the right way. I think is a good place. He walked up to me. We made eye contact, shook hands, a nice gesture, right? In these instances, yes, that's when it comes to brothers and men, we should be lifting each other up in that sense. But when it comes to being a nice guy, If you've been in situations where you meant to say no and you couldn't speak your mind, you're gonna go home very upset because you've betrayed yourself. You were probably raised and taught to please other people, or there is something that's happened in your childhood, some kind of trauma where you have been wrongfully associated with the outcome of being too nice will get you the result that you want, that you seek, which couldn't be further from the truth. So I've actually found that on many occasions I've actually come home really upset at myself for agreeing to things and putting myself in situations just to please other people. And I was just talking about like how all of this goes back to childhood, right? And so when I've seen these girls make their decisions based on, you know, what these guys look like and what I thought they would pick, I always thought that they would pick the nice guy, but what they say and what they do are completely two different things. And a lot of this is based on social approval, social dynamics, getting the validation, getting the approval, right? Because all of this eventually leads to intimacy, right? That's not the goal, but essentially that's the rite of passage. That's when you know that you have been validated, because she gives a piece of herself to you, and a very sacred piece, mind you, that most men want, and she gave it to you. But at this day and age, it almost doesn't matter whether you're a nice guy or no. You're gonna get screwed over anyway. Even the a-holes, right? They just use them and pass it along to the next. It's like, it's just your turn, bro. And this is unfortunately, this is the environment we live in. So when I talk about this, you know, kill the nice guy, you have to kill that urge and the need to please other people, and not just your romantic partner. Because you do this once, right? You do this once, you do this in any situation, you will most likely get screwed in all situations. So you make an you accept this, right? You make an exception, you pay the price for it at another time because of the habits that have compounded over time, and you haven't addressed it. So, and essentially what you're doing is you're running away from all of these things that have been telling your subconscious mind to, you know, align with. If that makes sense, is because there's a second voice in your system. It's called a subconscious mind. Innately, we know most times what the answer is and how we should move. It's just that we haven't invested a lot of time exercising those options and those choices, is because we're not confident enough, right? We haven't worked on ourselves. I think self-improvement is a way to get there, because it teaches you a lot of these disciplinary habits, right? To instill, to enforce. Because one of the most beautiful parts about this self-improvement journey is you do the things you don't love to do, you do it anyway, and you tend to end up loving it anyway. So the things that give you pain is the exact thing and the place, the origination of where you get the pleasure from. So you gotta get used to doing hard things, right? You gotta get used to offending people. You gotta get used to saying no to people, right? If she steps over the line and crosses your boundary, right, you gotta call that ish out. Because when she loses respect for you, you're gonna know in the way she treats you, right? And versus the way she treats the Chad or the Alpha, right? And so you may not be a 6'1" guy and, you know, be jacked or whatnot. Hopefully you're on your way there to at least get jacked. Not all of us are genetically blessed with the height, but you have a responsibility to yourself to hold her accountable and not cower and melt at the whim and drop off a dime to cater to each and every one of her needs. Again, I'm using the reference of a romantic partner, but this also can strategically transfer into your work life, all aspects of your social, personal dynamics, family life, your social networks, right? Getting into the competition side of things on flexing what you have, the material stuff, the wealth, all of this stuff. I mean, to an extent, it's all surface level, right? But the work you have to do is the inner work, is how to draw your boundaries. A lot of us are walking around with no boundaries. We're just making exceptions because we fear losing them. Essentially, this is what this comes down to. We fear losing that woman to someone else. and she's gonna walk off and go ahead and sleep with the next guy. So what? It's not a big deal. You know, she's not special, bro, is what I'm trying to say. There's one like her times 50 billion people on this planet. I'm just making the number up. Like you will find another one. You will be all right, bro. So don't lock yourself into that mindset of this is it, I will never do better, because you're limiting your options. That's a limiting belief, and it's keeping you in a place where you are not growing, and you need to outgrow those bad habits, right? And the only way you start drawing boundaries is you got to act on it. You got to follow your intuition and address it, not after the incident has happened. Try to exist during that argument, the tension, when you know that you've been rubbed the wrong way, when you know that she has actually crossed the boundary and you're not addressing it. You know, a good example of this is, you take her to a fancy restaurant of your choice, and she picks otherwise. She had other things in mind, something more expensive, lavish, and she starts throwing a hissy fit. She's not happy, right? You have to tell her that, hey, listen, if you don't appreciate this, then I think we can call it. I've done this on dates, and I've gone my own way, right? Sometimes they can't believe I've actually had the audacity to step up and hold her accountable as such. But I would say it shouldn't be shocking to them. What's alarming to me is that there's a lot of guys out there that actually allow this type of behavior to keep happening, and they keep putting up with it, and then wonder 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road, or maybe 1 year from now, why have things gotten worse? If it's gotten worse is because you never drew any boundaries to begin with. That's why it's gotten worse. And she loses respect for you over the course of the time is because she's shit testing you, man. That's really it. They don't know that they're doing this. Like once you draw the line and step in and just say, no, you're acting out of line, you're being disrespectful. This is your first and last warning. If you do this again and if you move this way, I am out of here, okay? You go find the next one. Because I can guarantee you, man, those guys that she gave it up to, if you know what I mean, they did nothing, man. They did nothing to get all of her prime years. She was getting blown out by all of these guys who did absolutely nothing. Zero effort. You know, God knows where she slept with them and how dirty that area was and whatnot. But she will lower her standards for the right guy. For that genetically gifted Chad or Tyrone, she will make the exception. And they're not nice guys, right? They don't do as much work like you are doing. In fact, what I would tell you to do right now, and I would tell my younger self, is, bro, dial it back. Match her energy. Do not double text. I talk about this in my video as well. I did a video about double texting. If she gives you a one-liner, you give her a one-liner, right? If you ask a question, hey, when are we meeting up? Or I would like to see you again. If she doesn't respond, move on. Like, do not double text to say, hey, I'm wondering if you got the text message, and I'm wondering that I texted you last week at 8-something p.m. and did you read it? Dude, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Of course she read it. These chicks are always on their phone, man. They're glued to you. You know what this really means? Is that you're not important. That's what it means. And what you're telling her, the subliminal message here also subconsciously, which plays into a hypergamy and choosing, right, is that you don't value your time and you have no other options, right? Think about it, man. The nice guy in that sense makes her all things and end all be all. Like, he just starts pedestalizing her and making her the holy grail of all females, and it's just not the case, because she has to live up to that. She has to live up to this perfect image of what the nice guy has put her in a box. And nice guys typically want an outcome. They want the validation. They're seeking an outcome, and what you need to do is stop being, in essence, manipulating to get that outcome, because that's going to repel. Being nice is a repellent characteristic. You gotta be your authentic self, and she's gotta see the real you. And a lot of you all lose her well before they get to meet the real you. So my question to you right back is, what are you hiding? Right? My question back to you is, what are you hiding? Why can't you be yourself? Why can't you say no? Why haven't you worked on the muscle memory? You know, those conflicts that you walked away from, or cowered away, or ran away, or ashamed that you made someone feel a certain way. How about you change the way you think about all of that and how you see these problems, right? This is, you can't play it safe, bros. Like, this is what we call life. This is what we call life. This is life happening right in front of you, and you are choosing to not live life. Conflicts, these types of arguments, these types of pressure situations are designed as such and happen organically to make you grow and come out of this a different person, and you learn from your mistakes by not being nice, right? It's okay to disagree with people, but it's also just as important as how respectful you are during the disagreement. It's very important. I think it's healthy to disagree, healthy to say no, healthy to go against the grain. And just because your values don't align doesn't make them a bad or good person. It's just a perspective. They're teaching you something, but you have the opportunity to teach them as well, right? A lot of times, I'm gonna start landing the plane because I'm losing lighting and it's getting a little darker, is that I have gotten my outcomes that I've wanted without really wanting it too bad, if that makes sense. Where I have stopped chasing. I do a little bit. I have a good hit ratio when I cold approach. I do a little bit, but I match the energy. If she's not giving back to me and she's giving me breadcrumbs, I also give her breadcrumbs because I have other opportunities in my pipeline, right, that I can revisit. So I don't have the lens of one-itis in that sense. I can see outside of that. So I think that's how I'm going to start ending this video is, guys, you know, you're never going to be respected by being the nice guy. You're going to be stepped on. You're going to be the emotional tampon. And everything that she tells you, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because she's going to teach you how to be the nice guy. And you have to push right back against it and go against her narrative by showing her, but more so showing yourself and stepping into the not so nice guy. So you know all the a-holes that she complains about who did her wrong? Guess what? She continued to F them. She continued to sleep with them, right? But continued to call them an a-hole. So essentially, with the exception she's making is that you are the exception to the rule, and you're gonna have to play by a whole different set of rules, right? So the question is, why doesn't the same rules apply to you versus them, right? What can you do differently in that sense? That's the challenge I have for you. This is what separates your outcome dependency, right? Once you detach from that, once you detach from outcome dependency, right, it shifts you from this paradigm in their eyes from being the nice to now the a-hole. And when you are technically the a-hole in that sense, is because you disagreed with them, and that's female logic for you. They start looking at you from a whole different frame, like, whoa, this guy actually has a pair of, you know what? Like, I kind of like he disagreed with me. In the moment, there's a lot of pride and ego that they're gonna feel some sort of way because they're not used to being checked by men, period. They're not used to being checked by men, period, because most men are very soft-spoken. They're not able to project their voice. They're not able to speak their mind and really lay it out there in the ground rules of who I am as a man, who I am as a person. These are my boundaries. This is my backstory. Betray me once, step over this line, you're gone. We fall in love with our eyes. That's what we do as men. We are very visual. So they're not all things sugar, spice, everything nice. Not even close. So if there's anything, you know, you've learned, this is Rich Cooper's quote, or better known as Entrepreneurs and Cars, beta bucks, alpha Fs. Beta bucks, alpha Fs. you know what I mean, right? You get that, how it rhymes and nicely sinks in, right? And it's so true. You do all these nice, sweet things for her, and you are thinking that this is what really gets her lusting for you. It actually does the opposite. The backup plan is to leave you at the end of the night, go get a back blown out by the alpha, because now she's put you in the nice guy category, the friend zone, and you ain't getting any action. So you better cash your chips. That was it. Find another girl, right, who respects you, and also exert yourself by being a dominant force in that interaction and establishing your boundary, establishing yourself as a man, right, and exuding that masculinity. This is what we're lacking in our society today, and this is how you kill the nice guy. Self-improvement is a step there. Self-improvement is a step in that direction. So I recommend you following some of the OGs on YouTube that are highlighting this. I may not be well versed. I may not have the verbal gymnastics and jiu-jitsu to tell it fluently, but I think it's good enough for some people. You get the gist of it. Again, I'm 49. I'm a Gen X. I've seen quite a bit, and women of all generations and sizes and shapes and nationalities and backgrounds, universal across the globe, move this way, including my mother. They will tell you one thing, that what a man should be in terms of a nice guy, but they will never be able to explain to you why they picked the a-hole and why they continued effing the a-hole, right? And he got all the benefits of the husband while the husband gets no play. Blunt, right? Very cold, right? But that's female nature for you. That's logic for you. And the best way to learn, you don't learn, you're gonna get hurt. And as we say, bros, you learn. You go through that pain one too many times, you're gonna learn how to become a cold-blooded wolf. You know, if I were you, I would take a few pages from this chapter here, from this video, and start putting this into play in your daily life. It doesn't always have to be dating, but a lot of the root cause and problems arise from that dating market, that whole dynamics right there, which also impacts everything else around your life, because we place so much emphasis on her, on our relationship. But she all along has been seeing multiple guys, multiple suitors who are more manly than you, hate to say it, more masculine than you, and gets her feeling some sort of a way that makes her sleep with them, right? That's the reward. That's their reward for doing very little. That's their reward for treating her with a little bit of disrespect and uneasiness, and making her, roughing her up a little bit by verbally disagreeing with her and telling her, no, you ain't all that, right? You can't put her on a pedestal, bro. Kill the nice guy. Kill the nice guy. Never, ever, ever look back. Only time you can be a nice guy is if you have a son and a daughter. Life is a little different then, and your dog. That's what I can think of off top. But for now, I'm gonna end this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully you found this helpful. I'll talk to you guys later. Mamba out.